Welcome, Dirk. Finally, it's time for your episode of this holistic human design. Have you ever been to Norway?
Never. No, never. I went quite a lot of times to Finland, but that's as north as I've been.
Interesting. Then, well, we're excited to welcome you to Norway, and I hope that it shows itself from a good side in September. You never know when it's September in Norway. So,
Yeah.
do you like to travel?
Yeah, I love to travel. I used to travel quite a lot. Late last years, not so much since this whole pandemic broke out. Traveling became less present.
Do you have a favorite place somewhere?
I've always like I love to go to India. So I lived there also for like extended period of times. And then I don't know, I usually then the other side I go to Latin America, but I've never been to Africa and I've never been to Australia and like yeah, Asia, Far East is not also I'd love to go, but I've never been.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, I hope so.
So India, is this Osho time?
I spent quite a lot of time in Osho's place, yes.
It seems that a lot of the early birds in human design were also sannyasins. There's this
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, because a lot of sannyasins, the end of the 80s, they settled in Ibiza. And so there was a whole, they called them the orange, they were all dressed uh, and so in that sense, like, the very early people who touched upon human design and actually one of the people that encouraged Ra to put it in the world because she didn't want to burn the body graft that he had given her was a sannyasin.
You said in your talk in Ibiza, you said that when you entered into, because it was about the same time human design came into your life, that the Osho also came into your life, and that it was kind of, there's not a lot of heart in this human design community, is there? It's the sentence you had. Has this, for me, the way you talk about human design really brings a lot of heart to it, and I enjoy listening. I've found some interviews and I really enjoy listening to the way that you explain or talk about the system. Has it changed for you, this heart connection in design?
Honestly, I haven't been involved any longer for many years in human design community somehow. Like I rarely or never, maybe in Ibiza was one time, but I rarely attend international meetings and stuff like that. So I don't know how it is nowadays. But it was definitely it's just a feeling I picked up, like not necessarily even a judgment. It's just a feeling that I had, and it always felt a little bit weird to me, and I've always felt more at ease somehow on that level of connection. I mean, for example, in the International Osho Meditation Resort, or I've done therapy trainings, or in these kind of environments, I felt more that they were actually, strangely enough, somehow putting more on the foreground the fact that life is an interconnected phenomenon, and human design at its core and its cosmology is clearly stating that, no? Like everything comes out of a two, so life is basically a relationship at its core from the fucking Big Bang till now. And we reach that spirit of interconnectedness and the compassion that basically can come out of that through embracing our undividedness, our individuality. And then, unfortunately, sometimes I have the sensation that individuality is interpreted as this individualism, and I'm different, and I have this, and I'm like that, and I'm like that, and blah blah blah. And so that doesn't do it for me.
This is also one of the criticisms I hear from people coming into design, that it's like seems cold and mechanic and deterministic in a way, and that there's no space for change. And I disagree, because there's a lot of space for change. But yeah,
There should be a lot of space for change. Yes, you know, I'm very firm on the stance that when Ra put human design in the world, and he did a fantastic job as the science of differentiation, the word science implies that it needs to be looked at with scrutiny, that it needs to be criticized, that it needs to be perfected in some way or another, looked at other angles, this, that, the other. And yeah, basically, no, now in the summer, I hope finally that I will publish a book that I've been writing and contemplating on, and that basically shares my reflections on on human design, and then, you know, on this human design and therapy, human design and child development, human design and you know, even other modalities. And yeah, like it is just a reflection, like it's just reflecting on certain things, like putting them. There is nothing that needs to be changed about human design as such, but our way of playing with it, taking it, using it, like looking at it, you know, repeating too much what came out of Ra's mouth is not honoring really Ra himself. You know? It isn't, from my perspective. It's like he was always very adamant on the fact that we're here to share our own seeing, and to he back in the day he said, please entertain me, you know, entertain me with your perspective and how you go about it and stuff like that. And I think that's important.
Is there like, do you teach groups, or do you have like a way that you experiment with teaching this? Like for me, having a reading, it's not enough. It's just to be interesting, and then people move on. And I would have done that myself if I wasn't like, but my first reading was with Richard Beaumont, and then he saw that the two of us, we fill out the penta. So he was like, we have to meet. So from there, we have a lot of companionship. So from there, like he really showed it to me, and I had almost daily contact with him for a long, long time. And this would have like passed me from just a reading. So do you have like any tested method to embody it for people or show it?
No, well, you know, when I came to human design, I discovered, okay, I'm a reflector, you know, and in those days, what there was a lot of courses, recorded courses available on gene keys. I mean, those were the days still that Richard Rudd was into human design and didn't take off his own journey. You know? And so I did a lot of self-study, and then finally I went to in those days also the teachings were very quick. Like, you know, you could learn human design in 10 days in intensive stuff like that. You know? And I did that. And then the moment I I don't know. It kind of like came simultaneously. I went to an Ibiza event, and there I met Darmen and Leela, and and like in some way or another, it started a little bit of a mentorship. Darmen was helping me out with yeah, looking at being a reflector. There's very little information. We used to sit in courses of Ra, pay full price, so to speak, and get the last 5 minutes talk about reflectors. So it was very strange. It's like almost unavoidably, it actually pushed upon the upon disappointment. Like, I'm sitting here for an hour and you talk so long about these guys and those guys and these things, and when it comes to reflectors, like what do you have to say? So it was not an easy journey in that sense, and I felt I was quite lonely on that journey. And so what made the journey very interesting for me was actually taking human design onto an experiential field. So living at Osho's resort, like every day there was meditations, there was therapy being offered, there was breathing being offered, there was codependency courses being offered, there was child development being offered, and that kind of contributed greatly, to the fact that for me, human design came into the world as a revelation, and human design has to stay a revelation. It's like my perspective is that, and maybe I'm too harsh in putting it like that. It is like not the point, but I'm kind of like saying like you can never understand your design. It's not possible, really. You can live it, and it reveals itself to you. No, it's like if I think I understood what it is to be open in the solar plexus, then the joy, like then the joy is like there is nothing else to discover then anymore. But I can see it certain way, and then like some years later, I start recognizing that actually it has something to do with my diaphragm, and it's got something to do with my breathing, and it's got something to do with the regulation of my nervous system. And wow, I can never grasp that in the beginning. And so the whole engagement, the IHDS started developing. Okay. And in the beginning, my perspective was like, wow, the IHDS is in the hands of energy types. And energy types, that some of those energy types is like, how long are you in human design? Like, did you actually go through the first 7 years? Like, really? Like, that wasn't even the case. Like, and so the perspective on all these teaching structures like IHDS has been like, this is not for me. Like, it is just not for me. I don't resonate with it. I don't, it never, it's not for me. And And for a while, I was living in France, and I was living in a. I set up a center together with my partner back in the day, and we had the facilities, and she also had a very deep interest in human design, and so together we started doing like trying out courses. And actually, we did it first of all in exchange for work. Like she was a projector and I was a reflector, and we were rebuilding quite a big house. And so we were offering human design introductions, living your design, introducing people to the body graph. She had quite some interesting takes on certain topics, and so we were offering love and emotions, and that started. and a certain kind of experimentation with not just purely teaching, left mind sitting and throwing it on you. And it was a little bit, and I'm seeing, I've spent my last 5 years almost not giving any courses. And I would never be able to give courses that in some ways are like acknowledged by the IHDS because I don't have I never bothered getting the, how is it called, the certifications and all this kind of stuff. But I started engaging a lot in sharing my reflections on human design, and actually I'm getting to a point where I'm seeing like I have an interest and it's not developed yet, but it's the text is there and the methodology in some way or another is there to, for example, to go through the centers from a perspective of child development. And that would be teaching human design in a way that also touches upon the the shortcomings in childhood, the traumas of childhood, the wounds of childhood, and gives a different perspective. I'm very interested in um, providing experience that allows for the revelation of the chart to the person who is engaged in the experience, so that the knowledge moves more from being just left, here's the logic, to here's the experience and here's the logic, and how does that feel and reveal itself to you. Like my interest goes there, but it takes a lot of time to build it and to go into it and to, like a lot. Yeah, and it's always it's been very slow also because like the I've always had resources, but by miracle almost. It's like they've always been there somehow. Luckily, it's always been there. Life really takes care. But I had to scratch to find the next 1,000 to pay the editor and the next this for to pay. Like, so it's never been like a motor that has been full on running on fuel.
Mm. It's very interesting. I ponder these same things, like what can be. There are probably many good ways to show this, like so that people can bring it home, so they take it in, and it becomes they can trust themselves in a way.
My stance is based on my own experience, is that I came to human design, and from my perspective, it is deeply influenced by Ra's chart, very integration oriented. And so the coming to human design was, I'll give you an analysis of your chart, okay? And now I'm going to throw my integration in your face. So basically what that means to me was, here's your analysis, now fuck off and live your life, and you'll figure it out by yourself. Like, don't bother me anymore, and that's it. And I've been through that. And what I noticed is that deconditioning for me, deconditioning for me is a therapeutic process. Like that's like, and a therapeutic process is something that is very far. Like back in the day, Ra used to say, therapist, the rapist, and okay, you know, he was a heretic, he was shocking, all these kind of things, and probably had a perspective on therapy that wasn't necessarily in line with humanistic therapy or the work of people like, I don't know, Pearls or Claudia Naranjo or Oscar Ichazo, or like, you know, there's so many modalities of Anya Reichert, this, that, like, you know, there's people who are deeply oriented towards bringing forward a person's essence, and helping them to move away from the identification with defense measures. I mean, the work of Gabor Mate, for example, I'm involved in it on a weekly basis. It is deeply, deeply, deeply at service of, you know, the embrace of our individuality and the compassion towards ourselves, which is another word for the choicelessness towards ourselves. And so my perspective is that the world of therapy that it has a lot of know-how about accompaniment. There is deontology in it. There is certain ethics in it. There is process-oriented work in it. There is understanding, very deep understanding of how the mind settles in the body, bioenergetics, muscular armoring, the whole work of William Reich. And so all that process-oriented work can be of tremendous benefit to a deconditioning journey. And on the other hand, human design provides or can provide to the world of therapy, an incredible GPS to our awareness. Because for me, awareness and individuality is the same word. Like, for me, individuality means our undividedness with existence. That's what individuality means to me. And our undividedness is coming through no choice. And no choice for me is not something that we have or don't have. For me, no choice is something that we are. I find it, honestly, from my perspective, again, you know, it's not like everybody has his own view, but from my perspective, you know, you are unique. It should be, you are unique. You are no choice. Love yourself. The moment we enter into having or not having, we're entering into the mind. But this is a system that is completely at service of choiceless consciousness, of being a witness in life. We are born with that witnessing potential. It's actually the personality that sits within the design. And in that sense, human design can be an incredible essence-oriented tool that the world of psychotherapy at large is in some way or another missing. You know, it's like they can have very clear insights in, you know, you have an oral character, or you clearly display certain anal character and you know, armoring and all this kind of stuff, but who are you really? I want to, you know, human design provides that essence-oriented lens. And so another thing that in this whole perspective of mine came to the foreground is that we as analysts are, because it's in some way or another a service that is in the world, no? Analysis. Because we are not duly informed about conditioning and how conditioning takes shape, no? In characters and in muscular armoring and all this kind of stuff, and how great the identification with the mind actually is. We are overseeing the fact that, let's imagine I have a client Okay. And that client of mine has an oral fixation, an oral character. So it's something that takes place in the oral stage, somewhere between birth and a year and a half. There's not enough loving mirroring. There's a lot of lack of affection, of holding, of recognizing. And all, I don't want to get into the details of what an oral character is, but that person comes, and the way that character sits in the body is usually, the shoulders are hanging, the arms don't have a lot of strength and energy. There is a natural there is a mental orientation towards feeling a sensation of, you know, like de-energization. Basically, the child was trying to reach out, and didn't get it, and it fell down, and the whole thing settled in some way or another like that. And I'm looking out in the world, and there's nobody there for me, and I'm miserable, and all this, the lack. And I get a client like that, okay? And then I look at the chart, and I'm like, oh wow, this is a mental projector. No, and then I'm going to say to this person, your design, it says that you are a non-energy type. Oh, a non-energy type. Yeah, this explains it. And you have no defined motors. Oh, great, I have no defined motors. This is just confirming my neurosis. Thank you very much. And that's a very bad job. That's the reaffirmation of a person's neurotic stance in life, which is the whole opposite of what this system is actually at service of. And so we are not aware of that. And what I see in the world nowadays, and why I'm staying away from international encounters, from social media, and I'm just doing my own thing in my own little corner, is because my perspective is that for a lot, I'm not saying, like, I'm actually daring to say the majority of people, okay, human design is used as a confirmation for their neurotic stance in life. And sometimes I suspect Ra from having seen it. I think he was aware of it, and that it didn't please him either, but what to do? The message, his job was to put the message out. I've heard him say that he was not necessarily so happy by the way that it, moved. How his teachings moved is something that is, where I agree with you. We need to question things. We need to be able to, and in human design, there is no, for example, in therapy, okay, you go to supervision. So you are a therapist, and then you take some of your clients and you go to see somebody else, and you say, like, this is what's coming up with this client for me. I don't necessarily, like, I see I'm doing a lot of projections on my client, or I'm transferring certain things on my client, or all these kind of things. And it's part of the ontology of that kind of work, to continuously question oneself, see oneself. What did you say? How did you say it? Maybe you should like, take that into account, all these kind of things. And in human design, like, you can go for, I don't know, you can go 3.5 years or something to the IHDS. You pay 10,000 euros or dollars, or I don't know, remember how much it is. And then, you make a little exam and you are an analyst. But the people that I've seen coming out of there are doing harm. And so, this is like, what's going on here?
It's been pretty crazy seeing the last 4 or 5 years, the explosion of interest of human design, and also the dilution of the message with that. So I this is why I love listening to people that, like yourself, that question it, that experiment with it, or like watch, observe through the system, like a lens, like you say, instead of pushing it in people's face and say, this is how it's supposed to be, or this is how you should be. It's like, where's the curiosity of it? Like, it's fascinating. But you say that like there are a lot of different therapies, that like embodied therapies that came in the same time for you with this, like how you experience this. Is there, like, what other tools, if we're going to call it tools, do you like use to assist your clients, or just humans that you meet along your way?
I have a training in body-based therapy. No, so I have quite, I mean, I'm not proficient or something, but I have quite good insight in muscular armoring. So for me, it's unavoidable, for example, no, to look at you and to look at your shoulders, to look at your neck, to look at the like what kind of tensions sit there, what goes on like, because it's the only thing I'm seeing for the moment, so I don't know the rest of your body, obviously. And through my own investigations, you know, I know how to link muscular armoring to the centers.
Mm.
That's a tool that I use in analysis. Like, it's something, it influences my analysis. And another thing that I'm pretty clear about is, because of, well, actually, in body-based therapy in Spain, because I studied all that stuff in Ibiza, the Spanish therapy world, the Gestalt, the humanistic therapy world is being very much influenced by Claudio Naranjo. And Claudio Naranjo has developed tremendously Enneagram. And Enneagram as a personality, like basically the Enneagram as a lens on character formation. Also, and when I get clients who are aware of their Enneagram, it provides me an enormous perspective on their chart. Because what is very clear to me, and what for example, talking about investigation, no? Ra often got the question, two exact same body graphs, and there is obviously many. Like, let's be honest, like I was laying in the hospital with a lot of other people who were born more or less the same time, so they have a similar body graph as mine. So what happens there? No? And so Ra was a very cryptic and incredibly, no, two objects can never be at the same place at the same time. That's it. Two objects can never be at the same place at the same time. Okay. For me, that's like, the way that I look at that phrase right now, okay, is taking a whole wall full of encyclopedias and condensing them in a sentence. And what I mean by that is, what became very clear is that and there's a lot of misunderstanding many times in people in this. When we look at a body graph, okay, and we see the openness of a body graph, we are from how I see it, we are seeing the architectural ground, okay, of the mental body. We see what the mental body is based on. Okay, and obviously it has certain depth. You know, there is transference in that, and and then there's in some way or another, like there's all the details of rave psychology in it. It's like, okay, here's that's the building, like the architectural ground for the mental body. Okay, but the shape of that mental body depends on the environmental circumstances. You know, so that same openness can turn into, and then we have to see what kind of modality we use. Like, let's say we're just sticking with the traditional, almost Freudian perspective. Okay, so this openness can turn into a schizoid, oral, anal, phallic, genital personality structure, character. And that character is going to have a reflection in the muscular armoring of the body. Okay. So that means something incredible. That means that if I take two charts, you know, and I have this in my friends. One of my best friends has the same chart as my sister. And my sister developed, in traditional terms, a genital character, a rigid character. Okay. And this other person developed a phallic character. And so the character, the shapes that come out of the same architectural ground are very different. And what happens, and is not enough taken into account, is that for me, a body graph, you can look at it like a marionette. And if you pull the strings that are open, okay, you inherently have a deformation of everything that is defined. No, so confining not self strategies, which is basically a mental take on the centers, and only looking at it in terms of the open centers is like a huge mistake. Because the moment that the mind takes over and distorts through the openness, the distortion, and sometimes the core of the distortion, which I find amazing, sometimes the core of the distortion lays in the definition. And obviously, it is based on the openness. And by addressing the openness, eventually we can redirect, you know, somehow the taking off, scraping off the mind from the definition, one could say. Huh? But the distortion, the mental distortion of a body graph is something that is that it affects the whole body graph. And there is not enough elaboration on two objects can never be in the same place at the same time. There is not enough elaboration on it because it created a certain character, no, defense mechanism. However, in you and I had completely different childhood traumas than yours, and it turned into some completely different gremlin in me. And so it's like, you know, human design is energetics. You know, it is not form, really. I don't know. This is a very difficult conversation in that sense. It's like when you look at a body graph, okay, you have no idea even if it's a man or a woman. And you have no idea whether it's a Hadza in the Kalahari Desert if it's an Aboriginal in Australia, or if it's a Chinese person born in Belgium, or it's actually a Flemish guy from Antwerp. No idea. No idea. And the same goes for the mental body. The gremlin that it turns into and that we obviously all have, okay, we have no idea. And it's a very different gremlin if it turns into an oral character than if it turns into a rigid character, I can assure you. And all of those things, if we call it a science, all of those things, they are not, like the purpose is the human design is made to look inwards. And the way that it's out there in social media and all this kind of stuff is just another way of entertainment that is so fucking superficial that damages the whole work of human design, that in no way takes into account the investment that we need to, and on and on and on. I'm not gonna go there because it turns me into something they don't want to see.
Maybe I do. No, I hear you though. And also in the same world of social media and where we are at the moment is this trauma. There's all the talk about trauma, and that it seems to me that there is a belief out there that if I just fix my trauma, it will go away. It's like it happened to you and it shaped you into what you are. This nature nurture old question.
Yeah.
And there are things that we can quote unquote fix. My two Plutos are 18s. So it's like, what can we correct in this life, and there are some things that, leave it. It's there. It's part of, it's shaped me. It shaped me into who I am. And I wouldn't be without it, because it gives me a perspective, it gives me experience, it gives me.
Yeah. Yeah. And without forgetting that the deepest fuel for transformation sits in the 54th gate in the 4th line. So the deepest fuel for transformation is the transcendence of duality. So the deepest fuel for transformation is witnessing and unconditionally accepting and looking at it and be compassionate with it. It's like, and if you observe the work of Gabor Mate, what I find so clear about his work is that he has this capacity to show that all of the defense mechanisms that we have, okay, they are not personal. They are pattern based, because we are a pattern. And they are patterns that we adopted. We could have adopted others, but we adopted those. And if we are able to look objectively and impartially and compassionately to those patterns that are part of the way that we got traumatized and this and that and the other, there's that's what allows the 18 gate to do its job. It's the job of, even, because the 18.2 and the 18.4, they are lines that have to do with, okay, I can change it, or it changes just by accepting it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do anything, embrace it. It's been your way. What, there was no other way for you. Don't judge yourself for it. And those things. It's like, it's interesting that you bring up the 18 gate, because, for example, the 18 gate, which is one of the most, I think it's in some way or another, it's probably the most interesting gate of the whole human design system. Because it is a gate that in its heading talks about the defense and the upholding of fundamental human rights. That's what it talks about. It states there in the I Ching. Those words are there. And so, human design is talking about finding one's own authority, and finding one's own authority is only possible if we uphold and we defend fundamental human rights. Like that's something that we're still living in the Middle Ages when it comes to upholding. There's countries where a bird has more freedom than a woman.
Ra talks about strategy and authority to help reduce resistance.
Yeah.
And I find, that if I judge whatever happens as negative,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can prefer, I can like or dislike, but if I really put on resistance
Mm-hmm.
that's happening, it makes the whole thing bigger and worse. Like I add onto the scale of negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this around me all the time too. It's like, oh, when you think it can't go any worse and then something bad happens. And I'm like, you're assuming that it's bad. Like wait and watch, It's an experience. It's something that happened. How do you deal with yourself in this circumstance? It's like, it's interesting to me.
It is probably because my experience is that of a reflector. So, given that my experience is that of a reflector, strategy and inner authority has been something that I grappled with in some ways. So the language in itself, when one says strategy, is like, oh, I do it and I get somewhere. Like that's strategy. And in my case, then no inner authority. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, no, the people have and I don't have.
Mm.
And so, because my experience started off like that, the perspective that I have on strategy and inner authority is I see it much more as the intrinsic energetic law of your energy type. I was born like that. And if I look at my life and I say every big decision in my life, like the month has always been there somehow, like it's weird, it's always been there. I wasn't aware of it. It's like the response has always been there. You were born with a response mechanism. Whether you acknowledged it is something else. So for me, strategy and authority is an acknowledgement of an inherent energetic law. It's not something you do to get somewhere.
Mm.
And inner authority is like, for me, inner authority points towards body intelligence. A specific, reliable body intelligence. And it's complex in a way. No, it's like if it's emotional, it has to do with the regulation of the nervous system. And if it's sacral, actually it's already saying that it implies that your nervous system is regulated, because if not, you're going to give authority to your mind anyway. So, there's an implication there. And if, for example, if it is heart-based, if it is heart-centered based, it's like your heart can only be in coherence when your emotions and your availability and your instincts, and it's like, so it is not boom, boom, boom. No, they are in some way or another very connected. Huh? And so for a reflector, no inner authority basically means consult your whole body. The mind has no grasp on no. Like that was one of the very clear insights that my partner back in France gave me. The mind doesn't really grasp it. The mind goes into lack when it says no, not self, no this, no that's. Like the mind goes bananas basically. and no, like no inner authority is like, wow, the task of acknowledging that if I talk to this person, I get access to certain intelligence of my body that is different from when I talk to this person, and allowing to consult my whole body over a period of time while a process of positioning, because that's what it is for me. Decision making is just positioning. Yeah. And it is also this deep misunderstanding that waiting is for something. Waiting is not for anything. Waiting is an intrinsic part of our nature. It's like waiting is our nature. So it is an active state of being here now, and in your case, responding to life, and in my case, or in the case of projectors, for example, it's like this whole misunderstanding. For me, it's a misunderstanding, at least. It's like I always remind projectors that it's very important to recognize that you are an embodied invitation. You are an invitation. No? And you resonate, obviously, with invitation, being seen, recognized, called out, whatever you want to call it. But if you don't recognize that you are an invitation, okay, you're always looking out there for an invitation. Where's the invitation? That's not the invitation. And it's like, oh my God, like what the hell did they do to those people? It's just like, but honestly, I'm 51 years old now, no? And I'm a 4'6". So I came off the roof almost 2 years ago. And I finally dare to speak up because I never did. I never did. I didn't feel ready. And now I don't care anymore, which is weird. It's like I don't care anymore. It's like this is my perspective, and the I'm not defending anything. I'm not criticizing necessarily anybody. I'm just giving my perspective. If it's helpful, it's helpful. If it ain't, it ain't. And I'm on my own trip with it. I'm not here to defend the system.
Yeah. I really like the way you look at the system. So it's good. It's good that you don't care anymore. I actually was searching around online to try and figure out how old you are. And there's always the sixth line. It's usually tricky to find out the age of a sixth line because it can be kind of almost anything. It's always interesting. I just turned 50 myself, and I have like in 2 weeks or something my Chiron returns. So these are interesting days. To me, the strategy and authority, it has been like a crutch, something for my mind to support itself on, so it doesn't run along with the information, and using the system as outer authority. And I don't think that because human design kind of found me when I was really sick. I didn't have access to my body. I couldn't move the energy in my body because it wasn't there. So it was like a step-by-step figuring out, this is response. I remember it took me like 5 years for my mind to get what response was. And then I just started laughing. It's like, I didn't need to know this because I do it. I mean, it's in there, but I thought I needed to know it. I have to understand. But I remember this, like, how I laughed so hard because it was like, I didn't need to understand this at all. It's there. It's just recognizing it, I guess, and utilizing it. And also,
yeah, it's like when you have good sex, you moan, no? Like there's nothing you can do about it. Comes out.
Speaking of sounds, is is music or sound part of your journey in a way?
Well, I have found a lot of accompaniment in music in my melancholic tendencies. So in that sense, yes. I've also developed a certain interest in which kind of music actually resonates with which centers.
Ah,
So um, I I uh, I was involved quite deeply in Tibetan pulsing, which is a very like fabulous work on the nervous system. And the guy who developed Tibetan pulsing, the name was Shantam Dirash. Uh, he he correlated aspects of the body, like organs, with the nervous system, and the whole work is laid out in a wheel. And so the correlation between his wheel and the wheel of human design is identical.
mm,
So there is like a possibility then to start seeing like, okay, like, so this kind of music and these kind of organs and that aspect of the nervous system corresponds to these aspects of the wheel. And it's something that interests me. And it is like, I say sometimes to clients, like, if you're a sacral being, uh, your generator or manifesting generator, one of the countries that through the sound of their language and through the culture that they elaborated upon and all this kind of stuff, that most clearly reflects the sacral is Japan. It happens to be a country where they work a lot and they go like, they go for it and they overdo it even and like, oh, why? And they put stuff in their hara and they kill themselves and all this kind of stuff. It's like, wow, it's interesting. It's like a country that represents, that is a good representation of the root center, is Russia. The pressure, they're putting pressure. Now this world, the thing going on, and they're just putting pressure and pressure and pressure, and they start talking about bombs and stuff and this and that, and and they have these matrushka dolls, so it's like in these dolls there's there's hidden the mystery of the root center. The mystery of the root center is that in the seed sits the whole tree. So that's an interesting center. It's like it's never an inner authority. If you're not grounded, forget about human design. Like it's as simple as that. If you're not sitting with your ass on this chair and you're really enjoying with your feet on the ground and you're here now, don't talk about human design. You're fooling your mind. You're not grounded. If there's no grounding, there is nothing because it's not an inner authority. It's a prerequisite to inner authority. And so, like, human design has been a lens for 23 years now. And I've done a lot and I've traveled a lot and I met a lot of people and it enriched my perspective. And I'm deeply grateful to Ra for that. For having been able to partake for being able to partake a little bit more consciously in my life. A little bit more. I can partake consciously a little bit in evolution, which is incredible.
mm.
It's incredible. Like who is able to say that? I mean, I mean, I don't necessarily want to refer to, but let's take an interesting guy, like let's take Yuval Harari, uh, the most prominent, fabulous, genius historian of nowadays. He wrote Homo sapiens and Homo Deus, and now he wrote a book on AI and stuff like that. And he partakes in evolution and because of his historical background. But to partake in evolution thanks to the knowledge of global cycles, is quite something. And it doesn't mean that I have no idea where shit is going. No idea. But I'm able to recognize the keys when they're there. And it's a strange phenomenon. And I'm able to recognize the keys of my awareness when they're there. And so what that means for me is that when I go through therapy, which I do on a weekly basis, and my therapist points certain things out, and I recognize them, and oh. And so I'm not going to start fighting with her. I'm not going to start pretending that I know better. I'm just like, oh, this is exactly what my body graph reveals, and I didn't see it. And so it makes me more present, and it makes me more there. And then there's a whole other kind of layers that I'm still uncovering and seeing, and that friends or partners or point out to me, and like, oh shit, yeah, sorry. Like, yeah. Moving away from a paternalistic mindset is very complicated. Not easy. It's not easy to embrace the mystery of the feminine, of the form. It's not easy to move into an awareness that is based on interconnectedness and compassion towards oneself and others. And that's what human design points towards for me. It doesn't, like, for me, what I see is human design is music notations, talking about music. That's what it is. And instead of using do, re, mi, fa, sol, it's using generator, projector, 1, 3, 4, 6, whatever. And my general perspective is that if human design, international meetings, or whatever it is, it's like walking into an academy, a music academy. And it's like walking into a music academy and coming to see that most of the students in the music academy, they're obsessed with the music notations and don't play the violin. Like, what the hell is going on here? You're all obsessed with the music notations? What are they for if you don't play the violin? And what are they for if you don't mistake playing, and if you don't repeat playing, and if you judge each other because you're playing? We're here to play. We're not here to be obsessed with the music notations, no? What's the fucking point? And that you know the notations better than I do? Like, and that you have more training than I have in the music notations? What the hell?
I really like this analogy with music notation. It's like I could always show you the sheet music, or I could play the music. Then you can hear it.
Wow.
It's a very, very different experience than trying to learn the notes and understand the tempo and the timing and all these things. Or you can listen.
Yeah.
Play. This is really, really beautiful, and it seems to me that this is a good place to round off. Thank you so much for sharing this, and we are very excited to see you come to Norway and partake in something that turns out to be an international gathering of human design people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really hope that that all of us that are going to be there can have this embodied influence. So do you know anything what you're going to bring to us at the conference?
By then, I think my book will be published, and so in some ways I can rely on it. I can say it depends where to take it from. Like, there's a whole chapter, for example, that has to do with why I look at human design as the most sophisticated anthropological lens for our times. But that's me when I was an anthropologist. And then I look at human design at the centers going through child development. Like which centers come to the foreground in child development? That can be interesting, but at the same time, it is yeah, it would also be introducing people to what child development actually is. No? It's like what goes on during child development. Then, well, I mean, it's in the book, but there is a correlation between the Enneagram's 9 types and the centers, and it provides more insight into deconditioning themes. So it's like we say, for example, that the head center is being engaged with a bunch of questions that are actually not useful to your awareness and individuality, but what else is there really? No? And so seeing the correlation between Enneagram and the center provides a much greater perspective on the conditioning that goes on there. So that's another element. Yeah, like those could be themes for talk eventually. Some of them we have to see which one kind of like speaks most. And then in terms of workshop, I don't know, like there is a possibility of putting in practice the taking into account or the looking at the character that the person presents when they come for the reading and taking it into account through doing the reading. That's an option. Or through and when it goes into theater, I don't know how much time I have, but like then there is a possibility of putting forward maybe without much talk, just more embodied somehow, not so much blah blah blah. There could be a possibility of bringing forward, and I need at least 8 people. So there is that going on. There's certain restrictions in terms of participants and this and that and the other. It like at least 8, and then it goes from 8 to 16. So it depends, no? Um, the shift that takes place in 2027 can be anthropomorphized because it is not only a shift in moving from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. It is also a shift from godheads. So actually we're moving from Mitra to Kali, and we're moving from this godhead to the other. And actually, when you orchestrate the godheads and you see the shift that takes place, you're actually seeing what a drastic shift it is. And so that's then a whole other story. But in some way or another, I don't know if it's doable in terms of time and if it conveys the message, and I don't know, like that's really like, we'll see. And it cannot be, some people can go like, wow, and another can go like, what is this? Or I don't know, like, so it depends in terms of workshop, what can be, what would be most, like I'm very ready to make myself available to the people in a workshop in whatever their needs are. Like, I don't necessarily want to push my agenda on them.
So this is just a personal curiosity question. Like in a setting like this, when it is something that you've already looked at and it's something that's familiar to you, how much preparation do you need? Like you say, you're available. Could you just like step into a room and then play in a way?
Play what? With the theater thing?
With whatever the theme is, whatever the frame of the game turns out to be. Or do you need a lot of, like, do you need a month of preparation? It's like,
No,
question.
no, not at all. No, I can just step in and do whatever is there. Like I can also just go to a workshop and okay, like what do you want to know? Like, well, it's like I make myself available in many ways, and we can just see and know what is it that you, what are your concerns? What is going on? What are your questions? What do you want to know about a reflector? Like, is that some of your concern? Is that something? Is that something that you want to understand better? You don't get like there's all that going on. Obviously, there's a lot of people who don't know.
That's cool.
Can be any.
Yeah, well, that's good though, because that gives us room to play and allow people to come with their needs and what they are curious about. So, by the way, I was just thinking how perfect for a reflector to go into anthropology. Like,
Yeah,
there's the beauty in that.
and then obviously there is like, that's still something that is kind of like I'm on a learning curve with it, and it's a very difficult learning curve. Um, I'm doing or I'm looking on a weekly basis at the neutrino weather, and it's like it's not easy. Like our engagement with the neutrino weather, like wow, how deep that goes, or it's like so that's also something that is there. Obviously, it's not something that is so accentuated any longer, but it used to be something that Ra did on a daily basis, no, in the radio, and then later Darmen on the radio, and so it's just, it is also a tool of observation. So that's also something. Um,
Yeah, it's like these big celestial bodies out there that they also hum their sound. You know, they have their tune. So it's this orchestra, big orchestra that we're in a way. I'm referring to sound again, but um, yeah, and I guess as a reflector, this is more interesting to you. I mean, you'll be more. How is that, though? You know, can I ask an experienced reflector like? The difference between sampling humans and the program in a way.
humans is something that is unavoidable. That's something that is like, I mean, all of it is unavoidable, but when I started doing analysis, I started seeing how powerful it is. So I like that, and now I'm doing analysis online. Like whenever it happens, like I have not somebody with a very full schedule at all, but somebody comes in and it's like woof, it's there. Like it's in me. Like there's nothing I can do about it. And because I have it on the screen, it's like, oh wow, it comes out of me. And then they leave, and then I feel it close inside of me also after a while. Okay, enough, like enough exchange. So there is all that what sampling really is and how how weird of an auric stance it can be in life, and how much confusion it can create in people, and all of that can be so weird, no, that to be so open. For example, it's like, okay, we're here very, like I'm totally, I can feel myself, I can feel my voice, I can feel the tone, I can feel there is a certain cadence to it or a rhythm to it, and it doesn't, it's like, okay, there I am, like here I am, and maybe next time I see you in Norway and I hardly recognize you. You know, it's like there is all kinds of stuff going on there, no? Like we had such an open conversation. Now, who are you? Like, what is this with you? Like, what an unpleasant guy. Like, how? So I have that many times in my life. And then when it comes to the program, it's still astonished by it. It's like we're living in a time now where the perspective is conditioned by the sixth gate and the fourth line. So we're seeing the the devastation that can be there in relationships in terms of friction if we are not emotionally regulated. You want to see my personal life in the last 10 days? I don't need to show it to you because it's described in the. So it's like we're all caught to a certain degree or another in these forces. It's like Mars is in a gate of aloneness 33, Jupiter is in a gate of aloneness 12. Like all of a sudden I find myself in retreat, in caution, in not speaking, in like, and there's very interesting things in that sense. Is like astrologically speaking, because it's still something that interests me. I find a very fascinating field. And it's like in astrology, they're saying that we're going through something called a little grand trine. It didn't happen since the Second World War. And the trine that is formed is between Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. And if you look at it on the wheel, it creates a triangle, and it's not a big triangle, a small triangle. Okay. And it has Neptune as the head of the comet, so to speak.
Mm.
And that trine was like that configuration between those three planets was present during the Second World War. And they talk about it and they put it forward, and we cannot do that. We can't say like, here's the trine. We don't talk like that. But then to take the time and feel inside of oneself, like Neptune is in the 25th. And our sense of self, who am I? My innocence, where is it? Goes on there. Aren't we all innocent? Like there's that going on, and there is a dissolution going on with sense of self. There's a difficulty going on. Like Neptune is dissolving certain things. Our sense of self for the moment is very blurred. It's like all of this, like this whole thing. Okay, it could very well be that I was never here because you can all make it happen through AI, and I was never here. So it dissolves a lot of things about our human way of functioning. We build our abstract circuitry doesn't really allow for that. It goes beyond. It's already pointing towards rave. And then we have this gate of contraction taking place inside of us, like what do I really, what do I feel for? What do I want? Like what does life want from me? And it, and then you have this Uranian, I don't know, my contribution, my individuality, what goes, and so it creates certain tension. It creates a certain, and if you think about it and you see it, it's like, wow, it influences our lives. And now Saturn is joining in the 25th gate. So there's this restructuring and limits and what is possible and what is not possible. And to learn to be a good paterfamilias with your own sense of self and like, what the fuck is going on there? Hmm? And so obviously the neutrino weather is helpful in being aware of it, taking things maybe with a little bit of secondarity, not taking it so goddamn fucking personal, because actually It's the nodes that are in the gate of friction, and it's the nodes that are in the gate of conflict, and it's and you feel isolated or alone because, you know, basically Jupiter and Mars are pushing you there, and so it helps to see like, okay, there's a conditioning field out there that is sucking me into certain something, and I can still rely on my own perspective and my own sense of being and my own, like, so this. But that's a whole other ball game.
Maybe next year conference. Just kidding.
So let's see. I think maybe like talking with you about it, I don't know, the stages of child development could be interesting. The centers, the stages of child development could be interesting. It's kind of like nobody ever talked about that before.
Well, you did in Ibiza, and I really enjoyed it. So I concur. It would be a very interesting.
And then in the workshop we can.
It's like it's the one thing we all have in common is that we're humans, and we grew up somehow. So it's a very fascinating topic, and we're so affected by. It's like I usually talk about the things that are written in cement. It was written when the cement was wet, and now it's firm. Like the first 6 years of development, it's like it's
also shit. So for me, for example, it shed a completely different light on channels. Now it's like the channel 59.6. 59.6 is an orientation towards, I mean, it's a design and a channel of mating focused on reproduction. And so the enormous confusion in human design circles that Ra contributed to that clearly, okay? Of confusing sexuality with genitality. It's like the 59.6 is basically the mystery. Nowadays, it's still very mysterious for most people. Okay? The mystery of what libido is. Because libido is something that starts in the womb. And libido is something that moves us through the stages of child development. It is an incredible frequency that is oriented to very deep, intimate connection. So the 59.6 is much more oriented towards that aspect of who we are than thinking about the 59.6 in terms of sex, which for most people is a distortion anyway. I don't know. I guess I'll share reflections.
Well, I can promise you that we are all looking forward to whatever is going to come out of your mouth at that conference. So we're excited to have you, and thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you very much too. It was very pleasurable.